Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video.
That's going to be caught.
This week, the Minnesota Vikings head west to face the Los Angeles Chargers.
They'll take that all day.
Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party. TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Vikings and the Chargers, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Leadership is really about elevating the group. It's about elevating the guys that you're leading. It's about creating deposits in that individual. You're going to have to coach. You're going to have to correct them. So a mechanism that I really like that I've used, as a player and that I use as a coach that I think is very effective is the Oreo method.
Luke Falk went from walk-on to record-setting quarterback under Mike Leach, but the real story is how he learned to master his mind. Today, we're exploring how the same skills that help him perform under pressure can transform how coaches lead, teach, and build their programs.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Luke, it's great to have you here today. I really appreciate you taking the time and was really happy that you reached out to me.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Keith. I'm excited about it.
So a lot of people know you for what you've accomplished on the field, but what really stands out to me is how you've taken those experiences, the highs, the pressure, the lessons in the mental discipline, and turned those into something that every athlete and coach and even parent can use. In your book, The Mind Strength Playbook isn't just about performance, it's about identity, resilience, and leadership. And I think coaches are going to connect deeply with the lessons that you've put together inside of this book. So first off, again, we want to welcome you to the show. I think it's great we finally are able to sit down and talk through how all of this has evolved. We've done it on the phone. It's good to be able to see you face to face here, virtually at least. But going from your playing days through what you learned in coaching and life since, you've really put together, I think, a tremendous resource for coaches. And would love to first just share that story of how this all came about.
Yeah, well, thanks. I've loved listening to your podcast. When I was coaching Division II football at Wingate, I had a 30-minute commute, and the Coach and Coordinator podcast was always a go-to for me. So it's fun being on it. Really, it's fun how this whole thing came about. In 2012, before my senior year of high school, I got introduced to a sports psychologist, and it changed my game completely. I was a kid before I started working on the mental part of my game who lacked a lot of confidence, who didn't believe in myself, who really struggled with game day stress, nerves, anxiety, and I didn't feel like I performed my best. And then this sports psychologist of mine, his name's Dr. Craig Manning, he was excellent for me, and he showed me that I could train my mind just like I train my body. And he gave me the tools to be able to do that. And I had the discipline throughout, my early years of college, at least, to be able to put that into work. The results were incredible. I felt more self-secure. I felt more calm, cool, and collected. Where at high school, I didn't perform in the clutch. And then in college, I was known as Cool Hand Luke. During my time there with Coach Leach, we had a great record of being able to pull through in the fourth quarter. That was due to mind strength coaching and also, obviously, Coach Leach and the teammates I had around me. So in 2015, I had this idea I want to help people maximize their full potential. I was a sophomore in college. I loved listening to a guy named Wayne Dyer. I'm like, I want to write, I want to speak, I want to do all that. And to be able to help people discover what I'm discovering right now, because it was life-changing. And then, when my career ended, that idea was still with me. And I was like, well, I want to teach an adjunct. I want to be like an adjunct professor at Washington State and teach a mind strength course. So I started creating a curriculum with my old teammate, Nick Begg, in 2020. And that's where the foundation of this program and really this mind strength movement started, along with the teachings that I'd learned as a player. Then I used it in private coaching as a private quarterback coach for a couple of years. Then I got into college coaching. I took that with me and I did some seeds here and there and saw how the athletes responded to it. I didn't go full all in on it. But when I asked the guys at Northern Iowa when I was the OC there, I said, what do you guys want more of and what do you want less of? Kind of like an evaluation after spring. The majority of them like, we want more mind strength. So I knew that it was something that was needed. Then I resigned from that position, took some coaches or some clients on while I was back home in Utah. And it just got to a point where I wanted to go full time with it. It's my passion. And last year I had the determination, I'm going to write a book. I've always wanted to write one. And I had already had the curriculum. I'd already been coaching on it for a number of years. And it was just a matter of putting pen to paper and really the stars aligned for me. So I love the book. I think it's an excellent resource. I appreciate you thumbing through it and your feedback on it. But I think it's great for any athlete, any coach, and any parent. And it's through RLE. It's through my real life experience. It's from being able to be mentored by an amazing coach in Mike Leach. It's being able to have all these great sports psychologists and thought leaders around me throughout my career. And most importantly, this book isn't theory. It's not something that, I read that and that sounds pretty good. It's things I've actually done and things I've actually coached. And I show you how. It's a black and white roadmap of how to train your mind just like you train your body.
Yeah, I want to dig into different parts of the book, and I'm excited to read it cover to cover. I've been kind of looking at it as a reference book. I've found so many good things in it, and I'm excited to go back through it. But one of the things you talk about as far as the foundation is from performance to identity. And I think this is something certainly that affected me as a coach. I know personally this last summer, I was driving back. My son played a doubleheader in Niagara, was playing in the Perfect Game League out there this summer. And it was an incredibly hot day. It was like 100 degrees that day. They're playing on a turf field in the middle of the day, doubleheader, probably 110, 120 on the field. And by the end of it, he was definitely dehydrated, but he did not have the day he wanted. And I'm driving home back from Niagara. They're on the bus back to Elmira, where they're from for a few hours. And he kind of runs into this crisis and starts texting me about, I don't know who I am outside of baseball. Like, I feel like everything's tied to baseball. I had to pull over and text him for a while and get him back to neutral with all this. But he was feeling at that point, part of it was probably dehydration, but like, I've tied everything to baseball. This is all that I am. I don't know who I am. And that's something I think that is true for coaches. I think it's true for players. Shoot, people outside of sports get tied into what they do, the stat lines, their accolades, whatever it might be, feeling that that's your identity. And truthfully, you have to find a way to separate the two. And I think that's a good starting point. What you lay down as the foundation here. Would love to hear you get into that a little bit and talk about its importance.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that story. I think really most athletes, most coaches, most high achievers wrap their identity in what they do, what they achieve, what people think of them, comparing themselves to others, how much money they have. And what you do is you put yourself on what I call the teeter-totter trap. It's like, okay, I get a good outcome. People like me. I'm better than somebody. Well, that teeter-totter goes up. I'm feeling great. And then what happens when you don't get the outcome? When somebody says something negative about you, or you compare yourself and you're behind somebody, well, that teeter-totter drops. And so you're just living on this constant anxiety-ridden playground to a certain degree on things you can't control. All those things are things you can't control. And I found myself early in my college career with that. Mike Leach said something positive to me. Coach Leach said something positive to me. Man, I'm on top of the world. I'm feeling incredible. Oh, he said something negative to me. I'm in the dumps. It ruined my entire week. I allowed my identity to be wrapped up in what he thought of me or what the media thought of me or my ranking. And the best year that I ever played is in 2015 when that wasn't the case. We had lost to Portland State early on, and I just had this like F it mentality. Coach Leach, he talked to me about playing with house money. So I've shared this before on my Twitter, and I know a number of coaches reached out, say it deeply resonated with them. But he's like, Luke, if I gave you $100 and told you to go gamble at our little casino, it's called Zeppo's in Pullman, a little closet-sized casino. I frequented it a bunch when I was younger. As a walk-on, I thought I could earn my stipend here, but I learned out quickly, house rules. It's against you. But anyways, he's like, you'd play there free. You'd play like you've got nothing to lose because it's not your money. Versus if that was your $100 bill and you went there and it was your hard-earned money, you would play more timid. You'd play more like, hey, you don't want to lose it. And that's how I was playing at that time in my career. Early on, I was a walk-on. I just cut it loose. I didn't care. I didn't have anything to lose in that sense. And then when I got to the starting job, I started playing timid. And then after that loss, it like set me free. It got me back in this house money mindset. And I didn't wrap my identity up in, hey, what people thought of me, because I had just experienced the worst. And that season was the most freeing season I had and the best season I've had. I was Pac-12 first team all-team player. Leach at the end of the year thought I should have been the Heisman. We won 9 games, whereas prior we were averaging 2 to 3 wins a season. It paid tremendous dividends for me. But this isn't something that, oh, I do it once and I'm good. You got to do it every single day. You got to make the conscious decision. Where's my identity today? Because when I was done playing football and I got cut by the Jets, I had a huge identity crisis. Who am I now? I'm not the quarterback. And if you placed your identity in something and now you're not doing that, well, who are you? You don't know. So I had a quarter life crisis, I called it. And it's just this big, long journey of being able to help me get to a foundation where I'm not tying my identity to what Chris Peterson calls society's scoreboard. And I thought that was so great. I listened to him on a podcast talk about it. And I called Jake Browning, who was his quarterback at UW. And I said, can you get me Coach Peterson's number? I want to talk to him, because I was getting into college coaching and I had heard him discuss this. And he talked about a game plan for your life. And so I called him. He was gracious enough to meet with me. And he showed me, hey, most people, most coaches, most players, they tie their identity and stuff to that society scoreboard. How many games you win, this, that, and the other, the accolades. And you can never win that scoreboard. What you need to do is you need to create a game plan for your life. And basically what it is what's your mission? What are your values? What are your roles in your life? And make decisions from that standpoint and your worth from that standpoint, rather than the external, the things you can't control. So for me, I did what he did, or I did what he asked. I made this game plan. And it was a big reason why I even got out of the college game, because I wasn't living those values. I was chasing that society scoreboard in the coaching deal. And it was a turning point for me. I'm like, I got to actually apply this stuff. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. So that was a huge deal. And then I think something that can also help coaches, players, athletes with their identity is I think you place your identity in something greater than yourself. Place your identity with God. And it's like, no matter what outcome you have, good, bad, that doesn't change your worth, right? Your worth's unchanging, unwavering. It's God-given. It doesn't matter what the outcome of the scoreboard is. And if you can root yourself in that gives you the ultimate house money, because you know that your worth isn't tied to what you do. And that allows you to go cut it loose, I think, better than anything.
You mentioned Coach Leach and feedback he gave you. And I really think feedback, I think evaluation done right, feedback given the right way, thinking from a coach perspective, it really helps to, well, one way or the other, it's going to have an influence on the development of the culture of your team. There are some people who are very bad at feedback and the method in which they give it. And there's some that are very good at it. And I think those who do it well are probably having an easier time with their culture. But regardless, a lot of the responsibility still goes on the person receiving that, whether that's a player receiving feedback from his coach, a coach receiving feedback from another coach, or, your athletic director, whoever it might be. You basically have to find a way to take what could be criticism. Sometimes a lot of it feels that way. The tone of it obviously has an impact on that, but turning that into fuel for growth. And I know you have Coach Leach story about that as well.
Yeah, I do. I think really when you look at mind strength, what is it? Well, it's all about mastering your inner world. And that way you can handle anything that the external world throws at you. So then what's the biggest thing to be able to help you do that? To focus on the things you can control. So you and I are sitting here talking. I can't control what you say, Keith, right? And if you're a player, you can't control what the coach says. You can't control how he delivers a certain message to you. But you can control how you take it and what you do with it. So, before I was telling you, I was living on this teeter-totter trap. When Coach Leach said something nice to me, man, I soared. When he said something negative to me, I'm in the dumps. And I was watching Tom Brady interview, because I love Tom Brady and I'm a big believer in a skill called modeling. I learned it from Tony Robbins. I listened to some of his stuff, and it's about find somebody that you want to be like. You want to model your life. When Tom Brady, he's where I want to be. So I want to find out as much about Tom Brady as I can and then model his behavior. Well, in this interview, I listened to him talk about this book called The 4 Agreements, and that he reads it every year. So what did I do? Well, I modeled that behavior. I read The 4 Agreements. And in that book, he talks about something called take nothing personally. And what he says is, think about this. If you have person A and person B. So person A, they get a good night's sleep. They wake up the next day. They take their dog on a walk. They come back. Breakfast is made for them. They eat it. They go to school. They sit down in first period and they take their test. No problem. They studied for it. They feel great. Versus person B, they procrastinated. They stayed up all night. They go to bed and they fall asleep on their neck weird. They wake up late. Their neck's aching. They go take their dog on a walk and their dog does what mine does and it's sniffing around forever. And then finally it goes to the neighbor's yard and it's got that, you see some of those houses in the neighborhood. Hey, please kindly keep your pets off the yard. It's like, well, the dog goes on that yard. And then lo and behold, the person comes out because they're surveilling their yard and they start yelling at them. And then the very last thing, the icing on the cake, is they don't have a dog bag with them. So now they're rushed off to school, no breakfast, they're panicked, they're sweating, they get into first period. The test comes out and they realize they studied the wrong material. So if I asked you, who's more likely to say nice things to you? Well, person A. Who's more likely to be kind, compassionate, understanding? Well, person A. Well, we know in this extreme case that it's not about us and what we say to them and what we do to them, right? I didn't ask you what you said or did to them, but we know inherently it's not about us, it's about them. Well, we think that's an extreme case, but that's the reality of life. And with this book, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about what people say and do to you really isn't about you. It's about them and what they're going through and their internal story. Well, I got thinking, I'm like, well, shoot, this is probably the same thing with coaches. They probably have a good day. They probably have a bad day. And that really impacts maybe their delivery, not the coaching point itself, but maybe the delivery. So I was walking one day and I just had this, it popped in my head. What, not how? What's the coaching point I can take from it? Not how is it being delivered? And so I started to strengthen this. And guess what? It got me off that teeter-totter trap. It got me from the emotional high of somebody saying something nice to me or the emotional low if they said something I didn't like. And so an example, we played Cal. I threw 5 freaking interceptions. It was so bad I threw an interception on a shovel pass. I mean, it was doomsday. It was Friday the 13th. Everything went bad. And the next day, in Leach fashion, he shows up an hour late, hour and a half probably, and he looks right at me in the front row and he starts going in on me. He's like, Falk, you got to be the slowest mother effer I've ever seen. I'm so tired of you watching you. You know, I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but he's like, stand back there like an effing statue, taking sack after sack. I mean, that went on for 10 minutes, you know, just drilling me. Early on in my career, I'd have been done. I'd have been done for the season. No chance I recover from that because I would have taken it so personally. Okay, at this point in my career, yeah, did it sting to hear? Absolutely. I'm a human. But at the same time, what can I take from it? Okay, what's the coaching point? Get rid of the ball. No negative sack. Find the check down. Get into something else. And then rather than taking the sting of the how it was delivered to me. And that happened throughout my career, right? Coach Leach, phenomenal coach. He didn't mince words with the quarterbacks. And rarely did you get a compliment. So it's like you had to learn this skill. Otherwise, you couldn't play for them.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. I know I see a lot on social media, coaches kind of thumping their chest about hard coaching or whatever. And look at this guy on the sideline tearing this guy up. I think the other thing too, like you came to understand Coach Leach and what the message was behind it and didn't necessarily take it personally. But I think a lot, especially if we're coaching younger guys, is that there better be a relationship there first before those things happen, because then that reduces the sting because you know that that person cares, right? You know they care about you. And so now you're filtering that out. And I think too many times, I think it's a young coach mistake saying, oh, well, they need to be tougher. I'm going to coach them tougher. You can, but they need to feel that relationship first.
I think in the young coach perspective, when they really are kind of a hard ass to a certain degree, I just plainly think it's out of insecurity. Right? Yeah. They don't feel secure in their ability to coach. And it's like, that's a way for them to make up on it. I think one of the greatest things Leach told me and showed me, well, what is leadership? You know, leadership, my dad used to harp me all the time about, I got to be vocal. I got to be vocal. I got to be vocal. I got to be vocal on my butt all the time. And when I got to Washington State, Coach Leach showed me that leadership is really about elevating the group. Elevating the group. It doesn't matter if you're vocal or you lead by example or whatever. So as a coach, have that perspective in your mind. It's about elevating the guys that you're leading. What's the best way of being able to do that? Well, to me, it's about creating deposits in that individual. Like you said, the trust. Each interaction you have creates a deposit. You're going to have to coach. You're going to have to correct them. So a mechanism that I really like that I've used as a player and that I use as a coach that I think is very effective is the Oreo method. And what does that mean? Okay, well, the very first thing that you do if somebody needs correcting is the first side of the cookie. Hey, what can you say that you appreciate about them that they're doing a really good job of? Maybe he's working hard in the off season. Maybe he's building his body to a certain degree. What is that thing? Then you go to the filling. That's the coaching part. So what you do, hey, genuine appreciation. Hey, Jack, you're doing a great job of blank. Hey, Omar, you're doing a great job of blank. That puts the defenses down now. And you do this in privately, right? I call it coach private, praise public, right? Do this privately so they don't have their peers around them and they put the walls up. Then the filling part is, okay, what's the coaching point and how can you actually do this? Because I think oftentimes coaches just say, this is what I want you to do, and they don't show you the how. It's like, okay, I want to give you a black and white roadmap of doing exactly what I'm saying. If you run this route the way it's supposed to be ran, blank, this is what I need you to do. Then the last part of the cookie is, if you do what I'm asking you to do, if you run that route the way it's going to be, you show them you incentivize them, hey, you're going to be all conference player. And if you're an all conference player, we're going to win a lot of ball games. We're going to be able to win the conference as well. So it's like, give genuine appreciation, put the guard down, give the coaching point. Most importantly, give them how to give the coaching point. Then the last part of the cookie is, hey, you give them the vision. You do this, your game can be here. Our game can be here. And then from the praise in public part, when they do that and you see it, call it out and you're going to get more of it.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Luke, looking at getting into the game day type of things and, players, coaches, I know early on in my career, certainly had to manage stress and nerves and all the things that come with in-game chaos, and being able to keep your composure certainly is a learned skill, but obviously a big part of your book, something you address. And I know you like to look at it as pressure as a privilege, that there's a way to take what's nervous energy and turn it into something that's positive. Would love to hear the approach you take to that.
Yeah, well, early on in my career, before I started working with a mental performance coach, I viewed nerves as a negative. I would actually throw up before games to deal with them. And then I would, it'd be like 50-50 whether I was going to play my best. And when I started working with this sports performance coach, a line that came to mind was, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That was by Wayne Dyer. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if I shifted my perspective of how I viewed nerves, rather than, oh crap, I'm not prepared, oh crap, they're going to overcome me, they're going to handcuff me. And if I instead looked at them of, oh, I'm about to do something I love. And then the second part is, these things can actually take my game to a new level. So in martial arts, think of it, there's a known technique that if I throw a punch at you, you could redirect my energy and actually use it for your offense, right? You could throw me off, you could knock me off balance. Same thing with nerves. Nerves will throw a punch. Most people let it hit them in the chin. Why don't you reharness that energy and allow it to be a superpower for you, right? Think in practice, I could throw it 50 yards max. I didn't have a very strong arm. But in the game, I could throw it 60 if I utilized my nerves properly, because I got the adrenaline working for me, aka superpower. So I think if athletes can retrain their mind first with them, and then also provide themselves with a workout regimen and skills, mind strength wise, they can really learn how to manage and harness and utilize those game stress nerves. And one of the biggest factors of being able to do that is their breath. So Keith, when you're nervous, what happens to your breath usually?
You're going to be a little bit shorter, not as deep with your breath.
Exactly. Short, shallow chest breathing versus when you're relaxed and you're asleep. It's nice, deep, and slow. It's in your belly. So if you can learn how to control your breath, you can really get yourself in the physiological state that you want to be in a more relaxed state. And I hear coaches say this sometimes. Well, once again, how do we do this? Okay, a technique I utilize is called the 4-6 breathing method. You breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds and you breathe out through your nose for 6 seconds. It's important to breathe in and out through your nose because you can control it better versus if you breathe in and out through your mouth, you might take in too much air, you might take out too much air, and now you're not controlling it. And if you want to take this to a new level, what I recommend coaches and athletes, it's like at fall camp, Coach Leach had us pile into the ice tub in the cold tub. There's great physical benefits of that. Well, there's also a mind strength benefit if you learn how to train it. When you jump in cold water, what happens to your breath, Keith?
Very shallow. You almost lose it.
It gets taken away. It's like, well, that's the same thing nerves do to you. So it's the same physiological response when you get in the cold versus when you get in competition, the heat of competition. So if you can train your breath work while you're doing cold work, your 4-6 breathing while you're in the cold tub, guess what? You can train yourself for that stress response. And I always like to tell my athletes and coaches and people I work with, if you can master the cold in your training, you can handle the heat of the competition. And I've seen it time and time again. I felt it as a player. I was religious doing 10 minutes in the cold tub, working on my breath work as an athlete. And now I'm utilizing it with my clients. Same thing. One of my clients, state championship, they're down, calm, cool, and collected, delivered in a clutch multiple times. He attributes to, hey, you know what? I trained for that moment, given all that cold breathwork stuff we did, along with, the other mind strength principles.
Another big thing in relation to stuff that's happening on game day, the idea of play the next play, that emotional steadiness, because adversity will hit in any game and anything you're doing. It's how are you going to respond to it? How are you going to recover from a mistake? I think those things are so important. And I know, again, a big part of what you address in the Mind Strength Playbook.
Yeah. Well, Leach was phenomenal at hammering that in my head. And as a player and as a coach now, I teach, I got to show people why it's important. So let me just take you through a little bit of coaching here. So when you think about the past, you can't control that, right? And the things you can't control, what I learned from my sports psychologist, when you focus on those, your anxiety increases. And if your anxiety increases, what happens to your performance? Well, it decreases. And if you focus on things you can control, your anxiety decreases, performance increases. So, think about the past. You can't control it. And if you live too far in the past in a negative way, well, the emotion that comes behind it is guilt. And guess what? Anxiety increases. How about the future? Well, you can't control that either. And if you live there too long in a negative light, then it's going to be fear and worry that are the common emotion. Versus the present, you can control it. You can do something right now about it, which creates peace, which creates you being in the zone, which creates you being, in the flow state. So about playing the next play is really about getting yourself back in the present moment. Because what happens to a lot of athletes is this: a negative play happens or a negative game, and they go to the past. They have regret. They wish that they did something different or made a different play, different decision, made a different throw, whatever it is. They have that guilt. And then what pops into their mind as well is they get worried about how they look. They're worried about what coach thinks of them. They're worried about what the stands are thinking of them, recruiting, this, that, and the other, whatever it is. Then they bypass the present and they jump right to the future because guess what? They're fearful and they're worried it's going to happen again. And they're worried about what people are going to think of them. So then what happens to the present play is it gets squandered. And in my experience as an athlete, there's two things that happen. They either play timid, check down Charlie comes out, they don't even read past the field, they just throw it right down to the running back, or the hero comes out and they try to make up for that play, right, by fitting it into a triple coverage. I've been there before. We played UW. I threw 3 interceptions on back-to-back-to-back series because of that very thing, trying to make up for it. So what the next play, what really that means is how do we break the negative play cycle? How do we get you back in the present moment? And so when I hear coaches say play the next play, I was an athlete. I want to know how. How do I do that? Give me the tools. So I've come up with this formula of, it's a 4-step process. Hey, we got to learn from the past, right? Learn from it. History repeats itself, people say, unless you learn from it. That's where if you have a freshman and you have a senior with the same amount of talent level, who has the upper hand generally? The senior, because they have more experience. Well, they've learned from the past. That's really all it is. Then the second part of that, so I'm going to learn. Okay, I threw a pick against UCLA on the left sideline. The safety made a play on it. Okay, well, what's the learning? I need to have better eye discipline. Great, there's my learn. Second thing, you get yourself present. Well, how do you do that? You focus on something you can control right now in the present moment. That's my breath work. Then it goes back to that 4-6 breathing again. Third thing, I'm going to build myself up now because what do most athletes do? Oh, you idiot, you dummy. Why'd you make that play? And they just beat themselves up constantly. And the story they tell themselves really drives the response. So I want to create a positive story, a positive, empowering frame for me to drive a powerful response. And then the fourth aspect of this play the next play process is what skills can I focus on that I can control that aren't the outcome? So I'm going to take the learning I had in step 1. Okay, I need better eye discipline. Okay, now I want to play with house money. Okay, now I want to be more decisive. Whatever it is, right? Whatever those skills are, you focus on that rather than worrying about getting a completion or scoring on the drive. And it takes you out of the things you can't control and it places your focus on the present moment and things you can. And guess what? Anxiety decreases, performance increases. So a long deal there, but I think very, very important for any coach, any athlete, really any parent to understand the power of the past, the power of the future, the power of the present, and that negative play cycle and how you can get yourself out of it.
Yeah, and from a coaching perspective, I think one of the important points you brought up is, again, the coach has to be the model of that. The team sees your body language, they hear your tone, and that will affect the recovery speed of the team from whatever mistake they made.
Totally. I shared a story that I think a lot of people liked. I mean, Coach Leach was as calm, cool, and collected in clutch moments and play the next play scenarios as anybody I've ever been around. And that did rub off on us as players, because I've had some coaches where they're dwelling on past mistakes. They're still talking about something we did in the first quarter in the fourth quarter. Leach wasn't that way. It was about, all right, what's the next play? What's the present play? And guess what? That allowed us to play really good football, especially in crunch time situations where maybe I threw a pick before, maybe a fumble happened. Like, we're playing Oregon, we're down 10 with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left, and I think we fumbled. And guess what? He didn't berate the player. He didn't go on that for that entire mistake. We moved on to the next play. And guess what? We ended up winning in double overtime that year, because his ability and our ability to play the next play, which really stemmed from him and his calm demeanor and his composure. Because you can feel when somebody's anxious. You can feel when somebody's calm. As a coach, you need to be the emotional anchor that you want your team to really put into reality, that you want them to do.
In looking at this idea of, mind strength, and you think of that for the individuals, you think about it for the collective of the team. A lot of this obviously is about the culture of that team and the alignment of that team. And you talk about a hidden variable in performance being alignment. Would love for you to expound on that and tell us exactly what you found in that regard in the importance of alignment.
Yeah, well, it goes back to who you surround yourself with, right? That core 5 I talk about. You always hear these quotes that you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And, you get to think about it. In school, you get a test and you get your score back to measure where you're at, what you need to improve on, what you need to study more. Well, we watch film, same thing. We need to evaluate our performance, where we can improve, what we're doing a good job of. Why don't we evaluate the people in our lives? Why don't we evaluate the people that we spend the most time with? Okay, when it comes from a coaching perspective, we got to do the same thing from a coach's deal. Like, how do I feel around this player? Is he elevating the guys? This, that, and the other. Is he in alignment with my mission? So in 2015, when we had that incredible season, everybody was pulling the same way. We were all going towards the same direction. I heard one of our coaches, Antonio Huffman, who is down at Texas Tech right now, I think he's the football ops guy, he talked about that the lug nut's on a wheel. And if the lug nuts fall off, guess what? The car can't go anywhere. So everybody's role is very important. GA, analyst, whatever it is. And you all need to be going to the same vision as a head coach. Make sure you're keeping people in check. Well, success happens with us. And I think, some coaches lost their way during my last year. And, you have a grievance and you might tell your position group, oh, we should be doing it this way. And you undermine what's going on. And there's this undercurrent. And what it does is splinters the team, and you don't have all energy, everything moving the same direction. And as a result, we didn't have our best year. And I was immature at that point. I probably listened to the wrong voices. And I think it splintered my relationship at times with Coach Leach by listening maybe to the wrong voices who weren't going the same direction that he was. And then guess what? We got a new staff. We had a lot of turnover and stuff. People went to different jobs because we were successful during those years. People went to their respective places. Leach got a new crop of people who bought into the vision. Same thing with the players. I didn't buy into the vision that year as a senior. I was one of those splinter guys. Now Gardner Minshew comes in. He's all in. They go win 11 games, the most in Washington State history. I believe alignment is the key behind that. And him not taking as many sacks and being a much better quarterback than me. So that helps as well. But I got to experience it in college. It's like when I'm in college as a coach, what I recommend is say what you want to say, make the suggestion you want to make. And if it is taken, then great. Do everything in your power to apply it. But if it's not, then put it on the shelf, put it in a notebook, put it on a hard drive. So when you do have your opportunity, you can do that. But in the meantime, your job is to support the head coach's vision and the team's vision. You need to get behind that. And if you don't, you are splintering the team. You are a energy vampire in that regard. And I can't say that I might have been perfect at it even as a college coach. I look back on it with perspective now of like, golly, I needed to be better in alignment with that type of stuff. And speak your opinion. I think so often people are so afraid to say what they want to say out of fear that somebody's going to take it the wrong way or they're going to get fired. It's kind of this cover your ass CYA type of world, and college football in particular, because, jobs are scarce. It's very competitive, and people are afraid to maybe go against the grain from an opinion standpoint. But what they will do is they'll take the lesser way out and they'll bitch and they'll moan and they'll complain about it behind the scenes, which is way more negative than just saying what you want to say. And if it's accepted, great. Implement it to the highest level. If it's not, then shut up, put it in a piece of paper for when you do have that opportunity, and then carry through the vision.
Yeah, can't agree with you enough there that your job as an assistant is to protect that culture. And I think that's exactly it. And I think a lot of guys do that. They don't maybe feel that comfort level. And I think this goes to a head coach's responsibility to make sure that the environment allows these things to come out in staff meetings or in closed door meetings, whatever it might be, so that coach can talk about those things. Essentially, the guy who can address it, right? He's the only one with control over it. And if you don't, it's going to fester. It's going to come out even when you don't want to, maybe in tone and body language and something like, because you're frustrated with it, but maybe you don't feel that ability to be able to bring those things out. You have to. It's your responsibility. If you are going to protect the culture, it's not always easy. You have to find a way to do it. Maybe it's not in front of the staff. Maybe it's going and sitting down with a head coach or, if you're a coordinator, whatever it might be, and handling it that way. But that action, that attitude, and being able to talk about it will avoid some of those other things that unintentionally come out and ruin alignment.
Totally. I think that mechanism we talked about as a player with a coach, it's the same thing. Use the Oreo method. Coach, I appreciate all this that you're doing, and be genuine about it. Guess what? The fences are down. He's listening now. Here are some things that I think would help our culture or our efficiency or whatever it is, and give him the solution, not just give him the problem. Too often we come with the problem and not the answers. Give him the answers. This is how to implement it. And then talk about, hey, coach, if we do this, this is where I think this thing can go. If it's accepted, great. If it's not, you spoke your piece. You don't have this resentment in you anymore. I also think, as the head coach, you set the tone. If you're a dickhead, and you provide an opportunity where you do rip people's faces off, like I was part of one of those deals, people won't want to come and talk to you. And then as an assistant, do your research, do your background on who the head coach is, and do you align with his values? Or are you just making the step on the ladder to try to get to the place you want to get to? I tell you, it's not worth it. There are probably times at Wingate, Joe Reich, working for him, oh my gosh, incredible. Loved working with him. I mean, he's everything in his alignment right there. And I think if you get a coach like that, it's easier to carry out the mission and the culture moving forward versus somebody that, their way or the highway. They don't want to listen to any feedback. It's like, why am I here? Am I just a pawn? Am I just a pawn in what you want? Or do I have any opinion in what we're doing?
Yeah, I think that goes to just how you're developing your career and you're approaching these different opportunities and remembering that the interview is a two-way street, that you need to be doing your research as well. You need to be asking questions to figure out, are we aligned? And so that you don't end up in those situations.
And I've been there, Keith, like you're coaching at a smaller school and then boom, you get this big opportunity and they need a decision within hours. It's like, I'm just telling you, slow down, take the time, figure out. Ask people who's worked for this guy. What's he about? And I'm telling you, the money, the status, the accolades, it ain't worth it. It's about the type of individual you go and work for. And that's why I love the Bronco Mendenhalls. I'm here in Logan, Utah, and I listen to Bronco. People love working for Bronco. I wish there were more of that in college football, or Dabo Sweeney or Chris Peterson, or, people love working for Mike Leach. It's like those types of coaches. I know there are many out there. I know there are, but it's like doing your research so you're working with a good human being who then you're more open to being receptive. And then you're also wanting to work for him because you love working for the guy rather than just like, well, I need this job and I'm waiting for the next thing, the next opportunity, which I think a lot of people fall into. It's a trap. It's like, people don't play with house money as coaches because there's so much to lose in their mind. Oh, I can't step on this toe. I can't say what I want to say. Oh, I'm just going to go with the flow. And that's my opinion. A lot of CYA out there, be different. And how do you do that? Well, I think go listen to the Chris Peterson podcast of what's your mission? What are your values? What are your roles? And let that be your decision maker. The times that I'm doing that in my life, which is, you got to make the daily decision every day, I'm so much better. I sleep with peace at night. The times that I compromised and just did and went and got the job without doing that, the decisions, maybe they were good at the beginning. They had some immediate gratification. Well, at the end, it really crumbled.
Another part of your playbook, modeling and mentorship, and the idea that coaches must live within their own coaching. But before we get into some of that, I want to step back to you as a player and for you, being able to model Tom Brady as a guy with consistent habits. Would love to hear what that taught you about modeling and now how that carries forward into coaching.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I think it's a great skill. It's not mine, right? It's Tony Robbins. I stole it from him to implement it in my own life. And what I put on it too is, who do you want to model that you respect holistically? Kind of what we just talked about again. Not just somebody who wins a bunch, who's a champion only on the field, but is lost off of it. Who do you want your whole life to look like? And for me, it was like Tom Brady. I wanted to model him. what you do is you find out as much information about them as you can, and you try to model their behaviors. What are they reading? What are they listening to? What are they doing on a daily basis? And guess what? I got pretty good at it, and it was freakishly how well it worked out. I was the same draft pick as him, 6th round, 199. My first career start was the same age that he had his first career start. It was in the 3rd game of his 2nd year that he got his first start. Same for me. And he played Peyton Manning, an NFL legend, and I played Tom Brady, my first career start in the NFL. So it's like the similarities are hilarious, when it comes to modeling. I'm like, hey, this stuff works. Now, what I always joke with people is that he played for the Patriots and I played for the Jets, and that was the real difference maker there. Okay. I didn't have control of that. I'm just kidding. But what it really happened is I quit modeling him. I quit working on that stuff. I went to TB12 and I trained with Guerrero, which they're phenomenal. I don't know why more people don't go and do that. I mean, like Tom Brady's like, I play Tom 45. Why don't you model what he did? And if you do, I guarantee you're probably going to have a long career just like he did, or you're going to set yourself up for it. So I went there and I started it out, but I quit doing that type of deal. And guess what? I victimed my way out of the NFL. I didn't model him consistently when I got to that point. So I think it's great for any coach who's doing it in a way that you want to do it, who's doing it at a high level, who's where you want to be, and how can you find out as much information about them as possible. That's why I loved your podcast. Oh, so-and-so's on there. I want to go listen to his philosophy. How does he approach the game? I think what's great too is if you're at a smaller school, find somebody that you really admire. Those guys, like I went and shadowed Shannon Dawson when I was at Wingate because he was a Wingate alum. He was in the air raid tree. And it's like, that was phenomenal. I wanted to model my behavior and what he did and his offense, this, that, and the other after him. Same thing with Phil Longo. When Phil was up at Wisconsin, I tried to get as much information about Phil as I possibly could because of the success that he had at North Carolina, Ole Miss, all that stuff. And so what are they doing that I can implement in my life, my routine, my habit, my coaching? Guess what? If you put your feet and your hands up the mountain where they did, good chance you're going to climb the summit too. Just make sure you're modeling the right character, the right individual. So when you get up there, you're fulfilled, not going, oh my gosh, I sacrificed everything to win the trophy, but I have my divorce, my kids hate me, I'm fat, I'm unhealthy, which, like I said, be holistic with it. And then from a coach's perspective, are you somebody that you would want your players to model? Do you model discipline? Are you disciplined? Are you resilient? Are you gritty? Are you working on your mind strength? Are you doing the things that you preach? Right? Sometimes I get a kick not to stereotype or to go after somebody, but it's like, if you can't discipline yourself with what's on your food and you're 250 pounds overweight, why should a kid listen to you about discipline on the field if you can't discipline yourself? Like, I'll even get a kick out of the mind strength coaches who talk about and preach about daily discipline, and they're 150 pounds overweight, right? Maybe they've got some genetic thing or whatever, but I think for the most part, it comes down to the discipline you do on a daily basis. Same thing with you're in financial peril. Well, that is about habits, whether you have good finances or not. It's about, can you discipline yourself to not spend more than you make? So are you, as a coach, somebody who you would want your players to model? And if they modeled you, what would your team look like? That's a great, let me stop me in my tracks to look at it. And I can't say that I'm perfect with that either, but it's a pursuit. It's a daily reminder to make that your North Star. Who do I want to be? What's my mission? What are my values? What are my roles? And how can I live in alignment with that?
Luke, to wrap this all up with anything, when there's a plan, there's usually an adjustment, an audible. And I know that's something you've put together about audibling in life, audibling in leadership, audibling in our careers, whatever it might be. You call it the easy mindset. Would love to hear how you've taken that, again, a quarterback thing, and turned it into something that we can use.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I appreciate you talking about it. So I think what made Coach Leach so effective as a coach and why all his quarterbacks were really successful is our ability to get in and out of plays whenever the heck we wanted and the autonomy of the offense. We got to audible. The defense gave us a different look, different coverage, different blitz pressure. Well, guess what? We said, hey, easy, and we changed the play. That's going to be the same thing in life. Things that you had for your life, visions, plans, all that stuff that, guess what? Life shifted. The blitz came this way. They showed a different coverage. What are you going to do? Hey, tell yourself easy, and then find a new plan, find a new way, rather than being hard-headed and just trying to do it because that's the way it's always been done. Right? So I think that's a great tool for any athlete, coach, parent. And I don't know when this is going to come out, but it's Student Athlete Mental Health Week. And I teamed up with the Linskys And my former teammate, Tyler Helinski, was on top of the world. He beat Boise State in a huge comeback win. And then 4 months later, he passed away due to suicide. And so you're going to have moments in your life where life hits you. Life hits you with a blitz you didn't see. And to me, mind strength isn't about perfection. I always tell people mind strength is about learning how to change the tire before you need to know how to change the tire so you can change it and then keep going. But sometimes life is going to pop all 4 tires. It's going to implode your car. What do you do then? And I think the audible that you call for then is, hey, I need help. I need help. And then it shows great strength to do that. And then most importantly, it shows great strength to then follow through on it. I had that same thing in 2019. I was going through a really rough patch. I just got cut for the 4th time. My dad got diagnosed with cancer. My mom was battling some mental health stuff. I had just ended a 5-year relationship. We had just ended that and the engagement. My dog died. I had double hip surgery. And here I am in my quarter life crisis. What the heck am I going to do now? And my sister heard the shakiness in my voice. She said, you need help. And thank God I went and did it. But when I did, I had this what are my coaches going to think about me? What's my dad going to think about me? What's to say about my masculinity? What's to say about, my week? Do I just need to rub some dirt on it? Even though Tyler had just passed away 18 months or 20 months earlier. And so I want people to know mind strength isn't about perfection. I'm not saying you need to be perfect. What it is, it's about being able to handle what life throws at you and then being able to have the tools to respond. Or maybe one of those responses, hey, easy, I need help. And that is totally fine. That's therapy's part of my mind strength workout regimen to this day. And anyways, I just think, but I do think that mind strength can help get you past those things faster and quicker. It's like, I'm rambling here, but I listened to Tony Robbins and he said, think of a river and then think of a waterfall at the end of the river. Most mental health stuff is on the waterfall. It's on the downfall. It's the rehab. It's the rehabilitation. Hey, here are all the services. Well, what are we doing upstream? That to me is mind strength. That to me is providing prehab. It's like Tom Brady with pliability. Why did Tom Brady play so long? He trained his muscles prehab-wise with pliability to be able to take the hits necessary of when it was going to come. So he reduced his likelihood of needing rehab. Same thing with mind strength. Why don't we create a prehab with mind strength? And then when stuff does happen, you will be able to respond to it better, even with therapy, right? It's going to help you, you reboot quicker. In my opinion, I'm not a licensed professional. I'm not any of that stuff. I'm just from my real life experience.
Yeah. Luke, this has been outstanding, and I hope we can have some more of these conversations. I think any of these little topics we dug into, certainly we could go deeper on any of them, but I think what I appreciate the most is that you've taken all these mental skills that we associate with playing, like handling pressure, processing feedback, resetting after mistakes, and you've shown us how to apply it to coaching, leadership, and I think in the bigger picture, I think what you've done with the Mind Strength Playbook is put together a resource that's for 3 groups. And you did an outstanding job in the book of making tips for players who obviously all this comes down to what they do on the field, coaches, and you have parent tips in there as well. And I told you before we got going, if I was coaching right now, if I had a team, I would buy a set for the entire team. I really think it's that powerful, but also very straightforward in how you wrote it. It's simple to read, but I think has some very impactful things. So thank you for doing that. How do our listeners get the book?
Well, I appreciate that. Go to CoachLukeFalk.com. And if you want to buy it for your team, there's a bulk pricing option there. I've given that if you go to the book and it says with the Mind Strength Playbook. So if you want to buy that for your team, there's bulk pricing options that give you, I think, 20% to even higher. That would be a great way. Or if you're just looking to get a single copy for yourself, you can always go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of that stuff. But one of my favorite things that Leach did for me as a player is in going into that 2015 season, he gave us a John Wooden book. And man, as a quarterback group, he didn't give it to the whole team, he gave it to the quarterback group. And I devoured that thing. And I saw a lot of philosophies that Coach Leach was trying to implement within us in that book. And it was just such a cool resource for me to have something. So I think this book, I envision it being like that. It's a great resource for your player, for your staff. And then as a parent, if you're listening to this, so often parents are looking for, what do I do for my kid? What do I do for my kid? Well, this is a great playbook for you. So I think, this can really improve any reader that listens to it or reads it. And I'm very proud of it. And if you like some fun Leach stories, obviously I got some of those in there too.
Yeah, great stuff, Luke. And thanks again for sharing your journey, giving us a lot of practical ways that we can strengthen the mindset of ourselves and our team as well. And I really appreciate you, one, being a listener of the show. Thank you for that, but also for being a part of it.
Hey, thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
As we continue to bring you conversations like this one, I'm excited to share what's coming next for our platform. In just a few weeks, the Coach and Coordinator podcast becomes part of something much bigger, the Coach and Coordinator Network, debuting in November at coachandcoordinator.com. It's the new home for coaches who want to think deeper, teach better, and lead stronger. There, you'll find our full lineup of channels, from the 10% Blueprint and Think Tank to the Systems Lab, the Position Room, the 10% Coach, and the Performance Lab, each designed to help you grow in every part of the game and your career. So stay tuned. The new Coaching Coordinator Network launches mid-November at coachandcoordinator.com.